Hello there, everybody, and welcome to our predictions and speculation for Obi-Wan Kenobi. This week, we are talking about episode 5, the penultimate episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Very sad about that, but we will be giving you our predictions and speculation for what we think might happen in episode 5 and into the future of this show. But before we do so, please hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel for Star Wars content, minimum 5 days a week. You'll be getting 3 videos, 2 shorts as of now for the remainder of Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you haven't checked out our Wednesday review of Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4, check that out, as well as our Monday video, which was a tier list of all of the droids in Star Wars, or at least the biggest and best ones on our tier list, and some random ones as well. So check those videos out. And stay tuned for next week for more predictions and speculation for episode 6 next Friday, as well as a review for Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 5 on Wednesday. So let's get into this prediction speculation. As we said in the review for episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the biggest complaints was this doesn't really advance the story too much. We didn't really learn anything, at least, in regards to where we can put our predictions speculation into the future. Leia's now back in the custody of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Assume she's going to be in the rest of the show if she's made it through 4 episodes. Maybe Bale just comes and picks her up. Who knows? I feel like she's kind of served her purpose at this point, though. Like, there's not much we can do with her anymore, unless she gets kidnapped again. But what this episode does do is at least set in motion what the path is, kind of shows us some of the inner workings of just the whole group and who the leadership is and who are the people involved in the path. Very brief, but it does show us. It also shows us the extent of their military capabilities, how limited they are, and how this is really just kind of a small group doing things underground on the run that don't really want to get involved in any larger conflict. They're trying to just do good on their own. They're not really a part of a larger conflict. But this episode sets in motion that they are now going to be a part of a larger conflict as they attack Fortress Inquisitorius to rescue Obi-Wan and Tala and Leia. So I guess that's where we can really start our predictions for next episode is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we've talked about this in the past, and I've said I hope not, but I think it really is going to be. Is this the springboard for what will ultimately be the rebellion? How this all forms, especially in connection with Leia being there, and eventually Bail Organa rejoining Leia and picking her up, or at least seeing how this group works. Is this the spark that starts something for the rebellion? And in that sense, how much is Obi-Wan actually involved in that? And I think next episode is really going to be a path heavy episode. We're probably going to, especially because this episode ends with Reva basically being spared by Vader because she's put a tracker in Lola to basically lead them to wherever the path is going. They might be going back to the Jabim. They might be going somewhere else. Obi-Wan was telling them to evacuate Jabim, so who knows? But anyway, what are your thoughts on how much the path will be involved in the future of the rebellion, and kind of how will it be shown in this next episode as Vader and the Inquisitors come looking for them wherever they actually are going?
I don't think this is like a proto rebellion or proto like not no. I don't think this is a proto rebellion. I don't think this is like the start of a cell per se that like eventually is all merged together when Mon Mothma is forced to go into an exodus and publicly announce to the galaxy the rebellion and how they're all coming together. I don't think it's that. I do think that this, sort of Jedi Force users, Force sensitive Underground Railroad is an inspiration point. And we've seen in a lot of Legends material, like in the Force Unleashed, um, Star Killers, like death is kind of like what causes the rebellion to really become more militarized, and they take his crest his family crest as like their logo and symbol. I think this is sort of what the path is gonna be like. It is our connection by using the Jedi symbol of like, okay, this is the prequels, this is all this. I don't think this is like a group that's ultimately gonna be around that much longer. It seems like it was already on a very tenuous ground. You know, Quinlan and all these other Jedi have passed through. We mentioned that in our last predictions video and our review video for episode 3. How like there's other names, like one of the Halcyons is there, another like Legends Jedi is there, and we see Doom. So you know, Kanan is possibly connected to this. So it seems to me, and I mean, I could just be completely wrong here, but it seems to me that with Kenobi entering the fold, whatever like vestige of like, hey, we're settled. We know how to like do this. Like, we can bribe person here. We can smuggle something there. That's over now. Like the whole emphasis of Reva's torture of Leia, which wasn't really a torture quite yet, just more of a strong interrogation for a child, which I kind of appreciated. I didn't want to see a little kid be tortured, like even as evil as you could be. Um, but seeing that she has like the wood that she rips from this, you know, the hiding place, mentions of like, hey, this is the second place that we found with the symbol. Rumors have now become reality for them. So it's a ticking time bomb. I don't think they're gonna last much longer past maybe like a year past this. And maybe that could be an element of Jedi Survivor. I'd love to see, you know, Cal's be part of this group to collect these Jedi and send them safely away. And it works for a bit, and then the events of this show cause him to be like, "Well, shit, I can't really do this anymore. I love that Kenobi's around, but I can't really contact him, and I can't really do this thing anymore because he's unfortunately ruined it." And then he has to deal with the fallout. I think that would be pretty cool to see. But as what it's gonna serve in the greater canon, I think it's just inspiration. I think it's just Bale will be so pleased that these people were willing to sacrifice themselves with a little bit of Kenobi's urging, with a little bit of Tala's, you know, double, you know, switching sides when most convenient. You know, she is ultimately good. She knows how to play her role. It shows, for I think, for him, the capability of other people doing this. And if you have an organized group and a militia, start off on Alderaan and then use older ships, all this and that, then I think he can see like, yeah, this could be something that's more real, something that has value to changing the galaxy under the covers of, you know, the imperial politics that he's going to still be playing until his death. Do I think that, you know, that the path is going to have anything more past this show? Honestly, I don't think so. Other than Jedi Survivor, I think it's kind of done. It served its purpose. It's cool. It's more of like a, hey, Jedi are around. They're doing their thing, and the Inquisitors have unfortunately hunted a lot of them down. Right? I think that's really the extent of it, but it's cool. I don't see much more than inspiration for it ultimately for the rebellion.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think I'm gonna take it as a step further and say that I feel like this show's been so dark so far that I don't really put anything past them for what they're going to do, and I think this entire group's gonna just get massacred next episode. I think they're all gonna die, and I think Vader and the Inquisitors are coming. Riva, she needs to make a big impression this next episode. She almost got killed at the end of this one. And I think they're coming and they're just going to wipe everyone out. And I think Obi-Wan is going to be forced to stand back up. I think he's going to be forced into conflict again. And I think it's really going to be their sacrifice that is serving as that spark for Bale. I think as he sees these people who helped save his daughter, and basically because they helped save his daughter and Obi-Wan, they all died. Uh, I think part of that is going to kind of light that fire. We're still towing the fine line between Leia having no idea that her parents were involved in the rebellion until about 3 BBY, from Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and this show, which kind of like, maybe her parents aren't involved yet, but she's very aware of stuff that's going on. Um, we're towing that fine line, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to really focus on that. But I do think, yes, I think if, in my opinion, I think most of these characters, if not all of them, will get killed in the next episode by Vader and Reeve. And I feel like we need that to happen. We need some type of kickstart again after this episode, which was, there was some action in it, but it was definitely more of a snatch and grab episode and more like Obi-Wan hiding from the Inquisitors. There was no like Inquisitors versus Obi-Wan or Vader versus Obi-Wan. I feel like we need Obi-Wan to at least take on one Inquisitor and kill them before he takes on Vader. I think this next episode we're going to really get into the action, and wherever the path is and whatever limited military experience they have and weapons they have to fight back, they're just going to get whooped. And the Inquisitors are going to be at the heart of it. And Obi-Wan will probably end up killing one of the Inquisitors and get back on his feet to fight Vader in the finale. That's really where
Yeah.
I see the path going.
I mean, just to add to that point, Lola is been like, kind of what's the right word? Lola is now just simply put a tracking beacon, it's no longer the cute droid that Leia likes to play around with. Maybe this is the last time Leia ever has a personal droid other than for diplomatic purposes. Um, because I think Lola's end is coming in the next episode too, unfortunately. I don't think Leo, as much as she loves her droid, will have it around for much longer. I think she's gonna have to become a little bit more self-reliant and be capable of handling things on her own. Um, as to your point of like kind of towing the line of like her knowing about the rebellion and all that, I think that also brings up a whole point of like, her whole spiel and obviously in episode 4, none of this was created. Like that is the first movie, but she talks about how like years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars and you're my only hope. But then on the Death Star, when Luke rescues her, he's like, I'm here to save. I'm here with Ben Kenobi. She recognized the name. So we've gotten that part really addressed quite well by the show, that it's very interchangeable. And she's very more connected to Ben. Ben is kind of like the sad old man that she kind of considers like a grandpa that saves her life. That she makes fun of here and there, but ultimately really does passionately care about him. And she can see just how much he's willing to do everything for her and how much it raises questions about her existence and her childhood and her parents. Um, but she's starting to get to the point of like she knows a little too much. Like she'll, if whatever happens in the next episode, maybe they're on Jabim or whatever, and we see that whole massacre happen there. What if we see like Leia's witness to that? Like, does she just see everything happen, and then when she like have an idea of like connecting that to like eventually what Bale starts doing with the rebellion and his Iranian troops, um, you know, does she really want to mention the Clone Wars when she could really talk about this incident where like, hey, remember when you saved me from Fortress Inquisitorius, that one place? Like, I think for me, that's where I'm like, I'm patient. I know some people are already freaking out, like, this is breaking canon. All that. I think we're gonna see something where Leia is kind of forced to get like a sort of mind wipe, like a very subtle mind wipe from Kenobi, because I don't see how all of this that's happened that she'll remember everything. I feel like to some degree she has to have things kind of written out, and if she can forget everything that happened on Fortress Inquisitorius and she's maybe like intercepted halfway to Jabim by Bail Organa, and well, we can't even do that because she's gonna have Lola. So that's the thing, right? She's gonna be at Jabim or whatever planet they land on. So it's like, okay, like we kind of do have to raise a few things or like tweak her memories a little bit, and I guess that does play into Kenobi's more emphasis on like force tricks and all that. We see him use the classic like push some object in the hallway to distract people and sneak around. And we know he's very good in the original trilogy, episode 4 of like telling people, and episode 2 of like you should rethink your life, this and that. I think we'll see like something a little bit more of like a concentrated spell of sorts from him, where he's got to like really work and soothe her mind, and then erase a few things because this girl knows a little too much about like Sith and Inquisitors and Imperial structure and witnessing probably like a massacre. Like, so I guess to sum it all up, I think my prediction is Leia's done. Her story's done in this episode, and she's transported away safely by Bail. But I think it'll also require Obi-Wan to kind of play around with her memory just a little bit. So maybe she only remembers Ben and she thinks Obi-Wan is a different character, some Clone Wars legend, and thinks Kenobi's just a casual name. But Ben Kenobi is like, oh, I know that guy. That guy, saved my life in this. Maybe there's a separation that Kenobi can manage or something. But right now, I'm like, she knows a little too much for a 9-year-old, and she's really good in an interrogation scene of like just resisting so far. So I'm curious how they're going to play that.
Yeah, they are going to have to make some interesting choices with all this. And when I was talking earlier, I was mostly just referring to Leia Princess of Alderaan, which I feel like is going to be completely gone now. A lot of the logic there. I'm still cool with most of the stuff from A New Hope connections here. Like from a certain point of view, it could work, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would be a little weird and invasive for Obi-Wan to wipe her mind, but not say it can't happen. Just seems like it would be a little much,
Right? Yeah, it
especially
could be
with
a
like
little. It
the
could be a little much, but just think about Bale. He's like, this girl's been through way too much as like a 9-year-old. Can you do something, Ben? And it's like, I really shouldn't, but I see your logic. I can see that, like a concerned parent being like, isn't this a little traumatic for a kid to have like gone through? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I could see it too. I just feel like it would be a little like as somebody. My mind immediately, like when it goes to mind wiping stuff, goes to if for those of you out there who read this Identity Crisis by DC. It's a big thing in that with Batman. And anyway, it's like a major plot point in there, and I'm like, I don't know. It just feels weird, but I could still see it happen. But I think we could still have Lola and Leia like get there. The Empire's tracking them. Then they're like, "Okay, see you, everybody. Thank you." And then they leave, and then the Empire shows up like right after they leave and attacks the planet. Um,
But
yeah,
then
I
wouldn't that raise the question of if she's taking Lola again? Doesn't that
what do you mean?
draw them
Like,
towards Alderaan? Like if she's gonna
yeah,
Leia
but
has
I
Lola
mean,
with the
like,
tracker.
yeah, but if they're there for a little bit of time, I don't know. They
Or
might
like
just
they
show
find
up
out the
and
tracker or something. Yeah,
yeah,
I get
she
what you're saying.
accidentally leaves Lola. It could be something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
But they'll probably discover that Lola's a tracker or something, disable it, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is where they are. We have to go here." Uh,
yeah.
it'll be something like that. But I think that does wrap us back to the second thing I think we should talk about in this video, which is kind of what we've been speculating on since our first speculation about episode 1 and 2 with Riva, and like what where are we finally going to figure out what's her backstory? Why does she know who Anakin is and Vader? What's her connection to them? What's her connection to Obi-Wan? And like why does she care so much about Obi-Wan? When's the Grand Inquisitor coming back? Is Riva I feel like for this whole story to make sense, I feel like this episode is going to be the Riva episode that she leads the assault. She's the one on the front lines. She's the one that ends up going against Obi-Wan. If she does, then she's going to end up failing again because Obi-Wan's alive in episode 4. So something's going to happen there. But I think ultimately what ends up happening at the end of this episode is the Grand Inquisitor wakes up from whatever coma he's in. And he's like, yeah, Riva stabbed me. and then I think there's going to be a lot of infighting between the Inquisitors. I think that'll start to settle the Inquisitor problem. But I hope this episode at least springs Vader into some of the Anakin and Obi-Wan conflict that we were kind of sold in this. And I'm not just talking fight. Like, yes, they did use the word rematch of the century. I'm sure we're going to get a huge fight. But I don't want just a huge fight. I want continuation of what Obi-Wan was feeling in episode 3. I want that grief. I want that anger and hatred from Vader. I want that fuel to torture this man for leaving him half dead on the sands of Mustafar. Like, I want that conflict, which absolutely gripped me. It was one of my favorite episodes of live action Star Wars TV because of that conflict. I want that to come back because without that, I feel like this is just another Star Wars show set in this time period. Like we can do so many different things with Inquisitors that don't need Obi-Wan. It's the Obi-Wan and Anakin stuff that we weren't all sure we really needed. That once I saw it, I was like, yes, give me more. And I want that to return to the fold here. It's a lot to ask for 2 episodes, and that's where I'm starting to get a little worried, but I think if we center the recenter the conflicts, move away from the path, that's why it would be nice if they all just got killed in this next episode. Uh,
Nice is not really the
right.
word I put, but I guess for storytelling purposes, sure.
Yeah, from a grand scheme of things perspective of, I really would like to see Obi-Wan and Vader. It'd be nice if they all got killed and, had Obi-Wan and Vader become one of the 2 central conflicts, and Riva and the Inquisitors and, like, her position there be the other central conflict, and have those 2 start to merge, because right now, there's a lot of very separate conflicts going on, and I think we need to recenter this show before it ends. But what are your thoughts on how Riva and the rest of the Inquisitor problem is going to be kind of wrapped up in these last 2 episodes?
I mean, she's already on a short leash. I did like already we got like this Vader that's just pissed and it's like he was already like, I want to kill Obi-Wan and show him all my pain and have him experience that. But this is a little bit of a like I hate your incompetence. Like like this is like the Vader that we see when he kills people in Episode 5 over Zoom, space Zoom, and he just kills the admirals who just jump out in space in front of Echo Base a little too close and all that. Like this is like the Vader I expected to see as far as like the Imperial structure goes in this show, and he's a little younger, and because he's already like on edge from having Obi-Wan like be this close to his clutches, like yeah, like I can see why he's like ready, just like extremely ready to absolutely like nuke anybody in his way that messes it up. So he's already like choked Riva, not even just like a choke you with my hand. He's like, you're up in the air, I'm choking you, and then Riva's like, let him go, and then he's like, okay, fine, I'm willing to hear you for one more second. Why did you let him go? I put a tracker. Okay, I underestimated you, but I don't think he's actually like. I don't think he's like being nice or anything. He's like, all right, you delayed something that could have been done earlier if you're even more competent. Let's see what you can do now. If you don't, you're dead, right? So, like you said, I think Riva's on the front lines here. I don't think we see Vader unless it's against Kenobi. There's no way he's interacting with Leia or anything at this point, so it wouldn't make any sense. And will kind of break a lot of Return of the Jedi. It's like, oh, you have a sister. I see. Wise to keep me away from them, right? So I agree. Reva is gonna have maybe her purge troopers with her. I'd love to see some of those death troopers. Just I love that armor. I'd love to see a couple of those guys. Just some classic stormtroopers like Storm, Jabim. Presumably they're going back there. I don't think the path has so many places. Like if they're going to Florum, great. I just don't think they are. I think we're going to see a little bit more of Jabim, and then that's where they land, and then it goes wrong. I will still say that Leia is there. The tracking happens, and then she's whisked away before the conflict happens. I would actually, if we, it'd be a pretty interesting thing if Leia herself, being as intelligent as she's shown to be, like the way she mocks Riva and everything. I'd love if she was like straight up like, I know too much and I'm a little kid. Like, do something about this. Like, can you do something, Ben? Like, if she's willing to like be smart enough to be like, I am like a ticking time bomb compared to other people who are older who are able to handle this torture and all that. Like, you have to do something. If they're going with that angle, that only adds more to the legacy of like Leia being one of the smartest people in the galaxy, quick on her feet and all that. I'd love that angle if she's the one in charge of making this decision of having her memory made all fuzzy. If that angle happens, regardless, Lola's discovered. She's got to make a quick getaway. Yada yada yada. Um, I think this episode is going to be longer. I think it's going to be like a 50 something minute episode. I will say these next two episodes I'm fairly confident because like Deborah Chow has done at least in my mind 4.5 out of 5 episodes have been no 5.5 out of 6 episodes that she's done have been stellar. This episode is like where it dips a little bit, but I can live with that because I think that next two are going to be effects heavy. Budget's going to be like you can see it on the screen way more. We're going to see a lot more Ewan and getting to do Kenobi mental stuff and heal up and all that. And I think this episode is going to be longer because ultimately after this whole barrage, this assault massacre as you call it, which you also mentioned it as being nice for story purposes. I think after that's all done, we'll see a Riva versus Kenobi fight where he like really turns it up. He might not be much better than her, but just enough to like at least subdue her for the time being. And then we'll see Vader arrive, and I think I could totally be wrong, but I think we'll see a good chunk of the Vader fight here. I could see in the first 10, 15 minutes, all the stuff on Jabim just rapidly escalate, and you're like, oh no, like it's about to happen again. Like Leia could be kidnapped for a third time, but now everyone else will die here because of that. So they scurry her away, do whatever they have to. Then we get like 5 to 10 minutes of a fight with just assault and massacre on Jabim. And then we get to see Riva versus Kenobi for like 5 to 10 minutes. And then we finish off the episode with like 10 minutes of Vader arriving against Obi-Wan, but Riva subdued. And I think, in my mind, we will see because they have to show Hayden's face really more than just a tank. I think instead of like how Ahsoka manages to clip Vader in Rebels and we see his eye, I think here we see Obi-Wan manage to like cleave off and disconnect the whole top of his helmet, so we see the whole face, and then that's how we end, and we just see like this man in agony of anger, just keeping him alive, even though he can barely breathe, and then that's how the episode ends. And presumably the next episode he shoves it back on, or he fights through being barely able to breathe. I'd love to see just that sort of Vader where he's just forced to like rely on the bare minimum of oxygen with his face completely exposed and fight Kenobi. But I want that to be the final shot of episode 5. I think that would like fully illuminate the horror that we've been hinting at seeing these flashes of. But you see Hayden's face all mangled. I think that's how we end episode 5.
That'd be really cool. I feel like that's a lot of things to happen. This has got to be a really nice,
It's
long,
gonna
juicy
be,
episode.
yeah.
But I would love that. That would be really cool. And I think that would alleviate some of the like where are the hated Christensen scenes. But anyway, that'll wrap up our predictions and speculation for episode 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let us know what you think will happen down below in the comments. If you haven't yet, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for the rest of our Obi-Wan Kenobi coverage. We'll be covering episode 5 next week on Wednesday in the morning when it comes out. Our review will be up, as well as predictions and speculation for the finale for episode 6. Also on Monday, we will be doing our recap of the May comic books from canon. We had to postpone that because of Celebration, but we will be getting to that on Monday. And then if you haven't checked out our tier list for the droids, check that one out as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.